Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. As always, I am joined by the exile dub Tommy Lyons and his partner in crime down in the southeast, um, Barry Drake. Barry Drake, of course, you would have been at Curraheen Park on Saturday night. We are discussing all matters Barwon racing, Irish Laurels, and it really is coming to a head. The big guns were really kept apart largely on Saturday night. And as a result, well, most of them progressed. It's turning into a cracking Laurels.
Yeah, it sure is, Ian. Maybe the clocks weren't as fancy as previous weeks. Maybe the track was just running a small bit slower than normal. But there were some stunning performances on the night, and as you said, we've 12 fantastic semi-finalists. Two brilliant heats to look forward to next Saturday night. One or two local runners as well, which always adds to the occasion. So yeah, very much looking forward to seeing how how it will unfold over the course of the next 2 weeks. And brilliant atmosphere once again in Curraheen Park on Saturday night. And great to see Killa GA there as well. They had a fundraiser as well, so they really added to the occasion with a bumper crowd.
Calais, that's Calais. Is that Sheila's plans?
Yeah,
GA club.
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. Yes, and obviously they would have been, rooting for the Burgess prefix. We'll touch on Burgess Supreme there shortly. Look, he's, through to the semi-finals, and they had a lovely winner as well in the closing race, which got a massive reception. So yeah, look, all in all, another terrific night at the Cork circuit.
Yeah, it certainly was. Tommy, people tune in on these Mondays for our insights, and I gave them a fairly strong insight last week. I said that Graham Holland had a future in the game. I think I'm right. I think I'm right. He had three winners in the quarterfinals of the Laurels. What he's achieving, what he's been achieving for about 10 years has been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is. And you look, they're going to run to form. You can have a good idea. You can set your clock by them. Um, what I've been impressed with, Ian, and I have to say it because I'd often be on the other side giving out about things, but I have to say that even though I thought at the start of the Lords, I thought, geez, we're missing a lot of dogs there to give this the real quality. The actual racing itself has been fantastic. And again, the other night, and we'll be talking about them all individually, but like when you look at the Jack Tavern Bowl against Ballymun Boy, the way that worked out, Rathdown Molly against Carrick Alloys, was there as good a 525 race as that this year? Like it was fabulous racing, it really was. And actually, I'm looking at the semi final heats and thinking the same thing. There's there are dogs that you might say I don't really fancy to win the Laurels even at this stage, at the semi-final stage, but this they're still going to play an important part in the semi-final. So it's actually turned out you couldn't if you looked at the line of the very start of the competition, you couldn't have asked for it to work out better to this stage. So I'm just hoping that the semi-finals and the finals will be the same. And you would think looking at it, it probably will be. Look, that's the likelihood. But I've just been it's been a really good, not a surprise, but it's just worked out so well. It's actually been brilliant for the Laurels this year.
When we looked at the initial entry, shall we say, we were hoping that the top 10 or 12 would get to this point of the competition and it would turn into a cracking Laurels. After that, it probably wasn't as deep as some in recent years, but as a result, we were, but as it stands, we are now in a situation where we can say it's a very strong Laurels because of the remaining 12, there is not one you could completely dismiss. Like I'm just opening up the Barwon Racing outright prices here, and like their rank outsiders role model. She did a 320 the other night. She leads to the corner. Like if she does a 320 in the finals, any sort of a schmozzle in behind, she's gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, and she's the rank outsider of the party. Clona Rocco is a dog that can fly up. He's 20 to 1. Rural Taylor ran a big race the other night, 20 to 1. Easy Razzle, 16 to 1. We know what she's capable of. She's capable of 28 seconds around Curraheen Park with her eyes closed. So, this is a competition now where there is absolutely no room for error from any of the big guns or any of those just slightly behind them, Barry.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think you summed it up perfectly there, saying no room for error, and that'll certainly be the case on Saturday night. Two competitive semi-finals to look forward to, and people, the grounds will need to be foot perfect to progress through to that magical final.
Yeah, indeed, the magical final. That's October 14th. We all look forward to it. Of course, I'll be there. Looking forward to it. I won't be there in a working capacity. I'll definitely enjoy it. Tommy Lyons, let's talk about these four heat winners. Glory Baz, this was a dog they bought off Ger and Sheila Duncan. Peter McMund is now a half owner alongside Sheila Duncan. Graham is training him. He's always shown lovely early speed. He was a bit late starting his career like he is at July 21, but this was only his 10th start on Saturday night. The one thing he does have is tremendous early speed. He needed it because, he had Droopys Beglin on his inside and the likes of Burgess Supreme and Clona Rocco on his outside, on the outside of the track, should I say. Like, to lead them up as handy as he did was pretty emphatic. 325, 1595, 2821 sets the standard, and a dog that is, well, unlike some of them in the competition, he's going to continue improving.
He is. Because I ended up going with Droopys Beglin. I didn't, not a dog I'd want to back at this level. I just thought that the draw was so good, and Glory Baz hadn't exactly been flying out of boxes in Quarterfinal Park. So I thought, well, Droopys Beglin has loads of experience here. He can break well from trap one. He could hold Glory Baz. Glory Baz can probably hold some of those behind. So I thought the makeup was absolutely perfect for the inside dog. He just missed it ever so slightly. He didn't get a chance to lead, but Glory Baz is stepping forward, and that's the key. Glory Baz was stepping forward and showed that pace to get into the bend. I was wondering how well he'd stay. Didn't have to worry too much. He might have had an advantage, maybe 4 or 5 lengths down the back, but he was in complete control. He's a dog going the right direction, as you said, Ian. Should be plenty more to come from. He's still not my idea of the winner of the Laurels. I'm still not convinced that sectionals are there to lead at most nights yet, and he can improve. Obviously, the 10th.
I think the improved performance came with the improved start, and it's just a case of whether he can repeat that. Because you look at his, like, even just his card that was there on Saturday night, like the 5 runs on his card there, like a 337, a 330, they're okay without being sensational. 218, 213, 214 in Shelbourne. Like, you need to be doing at least six spots faster than for each one of those sectionals the whole way down. And with the 325, he did improve, and there was the improved display. I think he's a dog that when he's on the bunny, I think he will stay that bit better. I think he just likes to have things his own way out front, and he does seem to stay onto the line better when he is in front than when he is behind. But that's okay. He's an early pace greyhound. That's fine.
If look at when we're trying to separate dogs that have made it all the way to his classic semi-final, like these lads have, we're nitpicking a little bit. I just think when Droopys Beglin missed it slightly the other night, and I'd be interested to see what Barry thinks about him. Droopys Beglin missed it the other night. It was a different kind of a race. There wasn't a Burgess Supreme was out in 5 who would have normally have great early pace. It was just a terrible draw for him. I actually think that it didn't take a monster effort to lead. Now, you're right. You said that earlier on that he led comfortably, which he did. So he's obviously gone the right direction. I just think that the way this race panned out, it didn't have the early pace that it looked on paper. That's not the way it worked out. He couldn't have done any more, right? But I just think when you step up again now for the semi-finals, and you're just going to have to be that little bit sharper again. Like if he was up against Burgess Supreme the last day. He's up against Burgess Supreme again next week, but now Burgess Supreme's in 1 in the semi-final, he's in 2. That could be a completely different story. So that'll be a good measure. That'll be a good measure of how he's advancing, where he's going. Glory Baz.
Yeah, I think Burgess Supreme is more of a trap 3 or 4 runner myself anyway. I think he does move off that inside. So that is not a great draw for him. No question about it. Barry, I put it to you that this could have been a very different contest if Droopys Beglin hadn't checked off wide, because Groucho's Vic was after showing plenty of pace to be in a lovely position at the opening corner. He was disputing second spot where he got done by Droopys Beglin. And as a result, Clona Rocco shot around the outside to move second with Burgess Supreme in third. But if Groucho's Vic had got around, could have been a different scenario. We would have seen Glory Baz facing a sterner test, shall we say. But Clona Rocco was the one left second. And as we saw in his previous effort, he does tend to stay nice and wide around the Quarterfinal Park circuit. Thought he actually ran it a bit better on Saturday night than he had the previous week. He does 28.42 in defeat compared to 28.53 in defeat the previous time. So Clona Rocco can certainly go up faster than he did the other night. And given the fact that he's out the outside every night, like he will be continuing to get his draw. But I do have a little bit of sympathy for Groucho's Vic. I thought he was going to play a big part.
Yeah, definitely. Groucho's Vic was, one of the greyhounds that I suppose kind of caught me by surprise over the course of the last couple of weeks. And I think it's a very talented performer, and a bit like the winner, an improving type. It was a messy enough contest, obviously, with the trouble at the opening corner, and it was a different race, I suppose, than what we all thought was going to happen. We thought Droopys Beglin, Glory Baz, and Burgess Supreme would be in a race to the opening corner, and a couple just got it wrong early. kind of opened the door for Glory Baz, but like you can't take anything away from that winning performance at the same time. Standout run on the night, sizzling early sectional. So, Glory Baz is certainly a greyhound going places, but definitely tougher tests ahead over the course of the next 2 weeks. You touched on it there with Burgess Supreme on his inside next Saturday night. So that's going to be a different race altogether. But look, he was an impressive winner. As you said, Clonard Rocco definitely ran the final bend a bit better than he did last week, because I was at the bend the previous week and I didn't think he was going to turn. So that's never, an advantage at Curraheen Park. And I was delighted Burgess Supreme, obviously finished third. Big local runner down here in East Cork and National Produce Stakes winner. Got it wrong at the traps, but took his chance well at the opening corners and grounded out a third place finish. So yeah, very much looking forward to seeing all three back in action next week.
And they happen to be drawn against each other. We'll get to the draw a little bit later on, but I would suggest that Glory Baz is the least likely of the three to qualify, given his draw. He's crammed in between Burgess Supreme and Ballymun Boy. Like, that's a recipe for a sandwich on the inside if ever I saw one. Let's move on to the second of the four heats. This went to Jack Tavern Bolt. This win number 8 in a row or 9 in a row, gentlemen?
Yes.
8 in a row for Jack Tavern Bolt. The previous week he was so sharp. 322. What was it? A 1597. This week got to the front early. 330, 1608. Just back that 2 or 3 lengths. It's very hard to back up these massive runs. We've seen it from some of Ireland's very fastest over the last 6 or 8 months, that when they produce these stunning runs, it's very hard to back them up. For Jack Tavern Bolt to still win, even though he didn't really take off, I thought was testament to the dog. And I think we can see the best of him again, either next week or perhaps in the following week. I just thought it was thoroughly professional display. Ballymun Boy, huge run in defeat. He has terrific early speed. He matched Jack Tavern Bolt to the third bend the previous round with the exact same sectional. On this occasion, he was always pressing, just couldn't quite get there. Jack Tavern Bolt went on to land the spoils, and Rural Taylor stayed on well in behind at 3. Millridge Bryce was the one to lose out in 4th spot. But Jack Tavern Bolt, Tommy, since he's come to Curraheen Park, I think there's been pretty much a love affair.
Yeah, he's like, it will be remarkable. We talked about it a few weeks ago, Barry and I, and you were talking about it. Like, it'd be remarkable if he's able to go through 2 competitions like that back to back and effectively lead most of them and win. And if he can complete it, I love the performance the other night, because I think for the fact that Ballymun Boy didn't give him any inch. Ballymun Boy went up in my estimation again. I just thought, I love the fact, okay, he was fading a little bit late, right, and he's beaten 3 lengths, right, but he's really pressing hard. An exceptionally fast early pacer to the third bend, and he's there on the inside, and he can still have a say in the Laurels. Ballymun Boy can. He has that type of early pace that he's capable of getting away and winning races, but he's also a danger to anybody who's drawn outside him, because they're going to have to find a way around him because he's that fast early. So it was actually like, this is a great example of where the Laurels is going. Jack Tavern Bolt beat him 3 lengths, but they had a great race. In the semi-final, then, like, they're in 3 and 4, Ballymun Boy 3, Jack Tavern Bolt 4, and Glory Baz and Burgess Supreme 1 and 2. Like, so there's going to be some battle next week when we get a chance to talk about the semi-finals. I don't think Ballymun Boy lost an awful lot in defeat. I think it's a smashing effort. He ran, to me, absolutely deformed, but Jack Tavern Bolt is a dog with a brilliant attitude. A brilliant attitude. He had to battle to lead, and he had to battle to maintain his lead all the way to third bend, and still found a bit extra up the straight to win quite comfortably in the end. He's a fabulous dog, really is. You know what? It will be some performance, and it'll probably get skipped over the course of a couple of months. You forget about it if he does happen to go on and win the Laurels. But you'll be saying, he won the Laurels, yeah, lovely early pace or whatever. But to do it all week after week after week, serious. It was still, and you know what? Being the stubborn person that I am, I probably have to oppose him in the final, even if they put him in trap 1.
It depends what's on his outside.
Of course,
I think the draw is going to be hugely important going forward. I think he's a good draw in the semi-finals from trap 4, given the fact that they could be very squeezy in the inside. But Barry, it's hard not to be sort of hugely impressed by Jack Tavern Bolt. The Pillar Syndicate were out of luck at Shelbourne Park with Ballinakil Alf in the final of the Juvenile Derby. They were second with Jack Tavern Bill in the Leisure last week in the UK. They have a potential classic winner here, though. Jack Tavern Bolt. He was very much seen as the second light in the litter up to 5 or 6 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden, like he's up there with amongst the very sharpest greyhounds in training. Never mind the litter.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I'd say that the bookmakers are fairly sick of Jack Tavern Bolt now at this stage. He's been a real punter's pal over the course of the last 8 weeks at Curraheen Park. And, to be honest with you, prior to the Laurels, I would have thought, that, it might have been just a step too far. Obviously, he'd won, 5 weeks in the trot, winning the Casco A1 Derby. And I still thought the Laurels was, another step up in class. I think he beat, the Gonzo in the final. The Gonzo is a good greyhound, but you're taking on, different greyhounds in this event, and I'm surprised he hasn't bumped into one. But so far, but he's been the star of the competition, and as it's hard to see how you're going to get this dog beat even over the course of the next 2 weeks. As I said, a fantastic performance once again. There was a bit of noise in the traps before the traps opened, so maybe one of them might have went too soon. But it was another sensational performance, and as Tommy said, Ballymun Boy really put it up to it down into the second last corner. But Jack Tavern Bolt once again had all the answers up front, and as I said, star of the competition so far. And he's going to take plenty of stopping over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, you mentioned there the noise in the traps. I wasn't aware of it. I'm watching from afar. Ballymun Boy 322, Jack Tavern Bolt 322, and Kilbarry travelled 326 in their previous outings. It was 330 the night for Jack Tavern Bolt, and he seemed like he did nothing wrong. But just that little bit of noise, as you say, just off, just one little bit of something charging it, and they can all miss at a beat, and that's potentially what did happen. So you could probably take away another 7 or 8 spots off that 28-29, but it's a hell of a run either way. It doesn't really matter. I don't know how to say you can't see how he can be beaten around Curraheen Park. I thought for someone as experienced as you around Curraheen Park knows anyone Pegasus can get beaten around Curraheen Park if you're in the wrong draw with the wrong early speed on your inside. But no, I think we understand what you're saying. Second, Ballymun Boy, of course, he is bred by JJ and Sheila. He's out of Burgess Alina, so they're almost double-handed. I'm sure they'd take as much pleasure out of seeing this fellow win as they would the dog that's still in their name. And back in third was 6 Rural Taylor. I thought this fellow ran okay, Tommy. He seems to be really at the peak of his powers at present. He didn't get a flyer or anything like it, but he ran hard in behind them.
Yeah, the point that you were making a minute ago actually is interesting about the noise and whatever. But like in fairness, the trappers trapped, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They as you said, and you said it right. Like it didn't feel or seem like that that it affected Jack Tavern Bolt. He did anything wrong. Thought Rory Taylor ran very well. I think he had to run hard to get into third place. Now he doesn't finish any closer to Ballymun or to the winner. Sorry, to Jack Tavern Bolt than he is at halfway. They kind of extend the advantage a little bit down to the third bend, and then he kind of stays on a little bit again. Now he's obviously trying to find a way past Ballymun Boy, and he kind of swings wide as a result. And he'd have a slight inclination to do so anyway, but he swings wide. I thought he ran a good race, but he's going to have to find about, like realistically, you're going to have to find about 3 lengths early to compete. I thought Milridge Bryce was a little bit unlucky. Just he missed it completely now, and he's not a specialist early pacer by any means, but he missed it completely and showed his usual tremendous finishing speed. I mean, he showed it against the other Kobe one night. So like he has it. It's just a matter of whether he can position himself close enough, and when there's that much early pace, and if he misses the kick, it's going to be hard to put himself in a position to actually qualify even. So he's a little bit unlucky, but he ran a hell of a race in defeat actually.
Yeah. Let's move on to Heat 3, and this went to Rathdown Molly over Carrigaldo. Back in third was 5 Role Model, who sort of set the standard into the opening corner. She took an absolute flyer at 320 for Owen McKenna's bitch, but she was always under serious pressure into the corner. Daring Bowie had come away well, but just couldn't live with the others around him. Rathdown O'Malley charged up the inside. Carrigaldo charged up the outside off a pretty moderate start again, it has to be said. Rathdown O'Malley with the inside line got first crack at the leader. She took it up off the second bend. Carrigaldo was pressing then the remainder of the way. It's narrow he was narrowly beaten in neck. I thought if anything, he enhanced his reputation again in defeat. But Rathdown Molly has really started to find her feet, and she didn't take a flyer the other night, Tommy. We know she can. She's a big player in this competition.
She is, yeah. This was an interesting race, a really interesting race. But for the fact that the Rathdown Molly and Carrick-Aldo, neither of them laid, both had to run a really good first bend. Obviously, Rathdown Molly the advantage of the inside and was able to lead. But the one thing that struck me out of this heat, and it was something we said, it was last week or the week before. Carrick-Aldo is powering up the straight. He is really striding for the line. So a dog that we were assuming, and we had maybe assumed, or I had anyway, that he'd have to fly out and lead is absolutely, because one night Barry and I were standing the stands together looking at watching the race going, look at the way he's going to the line. Like that's what impresses most. He won that heat, but that didn't matter. It was just you're kind of watching out for where the faults might be. That's not a fault with Carrick-Aldo, I can tell you. He stays every yard of 5.25 and stays extremely well. I mean, this could have been in terms of how it panned out. This could have been a Laurels final. It was so good. The race was so good. As Skippy said when we talked about last week, like Rathdown Molly isn't a natural flying starter, but she's a hell of a bitch. And the way she tracked that first bend, talk about learning week to week at a track that you haven't been to before. Talk about learning week to week. Look at week one. Look at week two. Look at the other night. Week two, she was able to lead. So it was kind of giving her a chance to see the track properly, because the first night she was in all sorts of kind of trouble and or in traffic. And then the other night, when she had to do something special around the first two bends to lead, she was able to do it. She learned so much from the previous 2 weeks. There's more to come from her. There's more to come from her. But I tell you what, again, it's kind of encroaching on what we'll be talking about later on. But it's kind of funny in the way that the Laurel started out, that we got the semi final and we have 6 dogs left, and we have 3 middles and 2 wides still left in the competition. Now it could end up that we have no seeds left in the final, but I'd say I don't think that's going to happen. But it's just interesting, because I would love to see Carrick-Aldo in 4 in a final, because that might be where he might break out of. That maybe that trap 6 is what's been killing him all along. That's been impacting him from doing something utterly special. So I came away from the heat the other night still thinking that Carrick-Aldo is the most likely winner of the Laurels.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. But yeah, it's hard not to be impressed by Rathdown Molly. There's just something very, very clever about her, very professional, but also like she's hugely talented. There's no question about that. And for Des and Mary to have a runner like this in the latter stages of the Laurels is great for them. And they've had plenty of very, very talented greyhounds in the past, and I think they prefer to stay closer to Dublin. there's no doubt about that. But the road to Cork is a lot shorter when your bitches win the quarterfinal of the Laurels, Barry.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying to Skippy after he had got the job done there 2 weeks ago. It'll shorten the trip home, and I know he had problems getting to Cork. So I think he took a slight detour, but thankfully for the competition, he got there in time. Just in terms of Rathdown Molly, look, obviously she's a terrific lady. I did think prior to the race, though, if she was ever going to turn Carrick-Aldo over, it might have been Saturday night from the plum draw in trap number 1, and she definitely took full advantage of that. Carrick-Aldo, I was standing at the boxes actually watching that race. Once again, just left there. I thought he'd done unbelievable running. Yeah, powering down into the opening corner, on the outside of the track the whole way around. I still think he's the most likely winner myself. Tommy touched on it there, a couple of seeded runners left. First thing I was looking at after the draw was made, I was kind of trying to think how many seeded runners can we get to the final. And I think we might only get 2. So if that's the case, he's going to be in 5 or 6. And that's going to be a tough obstacle to overcome. And I think that's definitely his downfall over the course of the last couple of weeks, drawing in trap number 6. I think we'll see the real, explosive start on Saturday night from trap number 4, but I'm sure we'll touch on that shortly. Role Model ran a big race in 3rd. So it was the race of the night for me on Saturday night.
I'm sure his connections are hoping that either Rural Taylor or Clona Rocco are the one seeded other dog that gets through, because that would mean he's in 5 in the final rather than 6. So there is a possibility, that he could be in 4, but there's actually a possibility he could be in 3. There's actually a possibility he could be in 2, given the fact that there's 5 seeded greyhounds left in the competition. But I think they'd take 1 or 2. If Clona Rocco and Rural Taylor were both to qualify, I'd say they'd be in clover. Like, that's all dependent on him qualifying. He's going to still need to be doing everything right. He's got 2 flying starters on his flanks in the quarterfinals or the semi-finals. We'll get to that. But Rathja and Molly Carrick-Galdo, in role model, she went up so fast. She's a very capable lady. I wouldn't be completely discounting her, just given the fact that she is capable of that absolutely lightning fast start, and given the early speed that's on show in that second semi-final, she'll be looking to sneak around and hope then that there might be a little bit of bother in behind. We'll move on to the last of the 4 quarterfinals, and this was won by Graham Holland once again. High Trend. This is a dog that obviously was sprinting prior to coming down to Curraheen Park. He had a 5.25 at Shelbourne Park and then straight to Curraheen, really taken to the place. He hasn't seen a rival yet, Barry, and on current form, it doesn't look like he's going to see too many. Well, that'll change in Saturday night. He's in against the hot ones, but yeah, just current lines of form, it doesn't look like he's ever going to miss the kick.
No, definitely. I know Tommy was very sweet on his chances there on Saturday. I think he was rating him as the best bet of the night. And, he came in for good support on the track as well. And, as often is the case in Curraheen Park, trap number 1 is definitely the place to be. And, he delivered another high-class performance. The outcome was never in any doubt, 28-36. Glengar Marta, as previous weeks, showed plenty of foot in the feet. Narrowing the gap there on the way home, only a length of margin in 28-36, and I thought Easy Razzle ran another remarkable race to finish 3rd for Blarney trainer Johnny Linehan. So that's 2 big local representatives into next week's semi-final. But High Trend made the most of the great draw and got the job done in good style.
Tommy, he had a great draw, but 3.22 off the start he made, he could have won from any trap.
And that's key, because if you look at his 3 runs so far in the Laurels, he did 3:30, 3:25, 3:22. That's if that isn't the way I'm going in the right direction. I don't know what it is. He was doing that coming back off a 2:05 in Shelbourne, which will be right up there on current kind of sections in Shelbourne too. So what I would say is that he's actually learning. He's learning his trade. He's still very lightly raced. I think he's had about 11 runs. Is it? He's possibly the most natural trapper left in the Laurels. He seems to come out anyway, under. Yeah, he seems to come right out under the bars. Some we talked about this during the Derby, particularly with the laddie Da, saying that he's not the most natural trapper, but he has a good acceleration. Some dogs come out quickly and kind of maintain that pace, but High Trend seems to come out like a rocket. Whether he can maintain it or not, I'm not sure, because he comes out that fast out of the boxes. This was a really good performance. But now look at the makeup of the race was good, as Barry was saying. I fancied it as the bet of the night because I thought Droopys Rocker could be potential stumbling block to Glengar Marta. Glengar Marta ran a cracking race in defeat, but I love the fact from the point of view of the winner that Glengar Marta was within striking distance going to the 3rd bend, and you think, well, he's in trouble now. But he didn't give up. And I tell you what, I know he's in 4 in the semi-finals and all that, but with his early pace, he can probably get across the rails most nights, and you're not going to go inside him, because I tell you, he does not leave an inch between himself and the rails all the way around.
He's in 3 next week.
Is it 3? Sorry. He's a potential Laurels winner. I kind of said to Barry before Saturday night, he said I was kind of tempted to back him at 12s to win the Laurels. I didn't have a bet actually, but I was tempted to back him at 12s, and I think there's one firm still going, maybe 4 places even. The problem, of course, and what put me off is that the draw with Curraheen Park with Laurels with so much early pace. I mean, if he's drawn 3 and you have Jack Tavern Bolton 2 and Ballymun Boy in 1, you're probably thinking, I need a little bit of a miracle here. It's not that he couldn't do it; he possibly could. I do think he's the most natural breaker left in the competition, and he's still a player, even though trap 3, and he's actually overpriced next week, and possibly overpriced to win the Laurels. Still,
8-1. Yeah, he seems you're talking 2 bang starts, and he could easily win the Laurels, no question about it.
He's 4-1. He's 4-1 to win the heat next week. I think that's more than reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, tough heat now at the same time. In behind him, of course, we had Glengar Marta, Easy Razzle, Tommy, 2 ladies that probably don't have the early speed to win the Laurels, but at the same time, they can turn relatively close, and if any bother up front, they're big players.
Yeah, they are, but like Glengar Marta did 3:44 the other night, right? She got a slight bump, I'd say, from 2 first, then she got a slight bump from 4. are slightly impede, maybe slightly impede, just taking ground a little bit. But like, look at the pace she showed into the bend to get around at clear second. Like, she showed fabulous early pace. I mean, I didn't think she had the two or the 3:31, 3:32 in her that she was showing in previous rounds. Um, like there's there aren't what you would call too many stayers, too many greyhounds left in the Laurels who are predominantly staying types. She has a blend of both, and she definitely has the ability to win a Laurels. Again, she would need a good makeup. She would need a good makeup if she gets qualified for final. She'd need that. But I don't know. I respect her a lot. I think she's ferociously fast.
Yeah, Easy Razzle made up some ground in third spot, lads.
Yeah.
She was bothered everywhere by Bouncing Lad, who was on her shoulder, and the two of them sort of got into a bit of a set to throughout, and he wouldn't leave her alone. And Bogger Rambo's then on the inside as well, bothering her, and she's a bad fourth into the third bend, and she absolutely hammers home Easy Razzle. I've been beating the drum for quite a while. Like, she's a hugely fast lady. If she could ever just be more consistent at boxes, Tommy.
Yeah, 3:25, 3:46, 3:40. I mean, there you go. I mean, that's the problem with punting her. You don't know what you're going to get. But the funny thing is, right? Obviously, Jack Tavern has done the 27, whatever it was. But the second and third fastest greyhounds around Curtin Park left in the competition are Glengar, Martin, Easy Rattle, 28:02 and 28:07.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I think that says it all. They were the three qualifiers. Barry, well, let's talk about these semi-finals. The opening semi-final is obviously very hot. It's going to be squeezing the inside. I think Burgess Supreme will edge off slightly. Glory Baz is crammed in between Burgess Supreme and Ballymun Boy. You know, Ballymun Boy is going to the fence. We know that. Jack Tavern Bolt, I think, is a lovely draw in trap 4. Easy Razzle 5, Clonarocco in 6. You'd imagine Clonarocco will certainly keep his line. Easy Razzle, much the same. But for the potential for a bit of traffic on the inside, it's a pretty kind draw for, well, certainly Jack Tavern Bolt, you'd imagine, and Easy Razzle and Clonarocco.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose I give my thoughts maybe on both semi-finals there, Ian, because I have to go and do a real day's work. So this is going to be my final say in the matter. Yeah, Jack Tavern Bolt, I always thought he was, a dog that would be, better kind of out of middle trap. Maybe, 3 is probably his trap, so I don't think 4 would face him at all. I think he'll get the job done in the opening semi-final, and I think we'll see an explosive start from Carrick Aldo, and I think he'll dominate from start to finish, hopefully, in the second semi-final. And I suppose finally, just before I finish up, huge, I suppose, thumbs up and kudos to our sponsors of this great event, Bear One Racing, who've been very good with their prices, back up every Sunday morning. So plenty of work going on there. They've priced up both semi-finals as well, which I'm sure will, get plenty of attraction. Great to see both semi-finals priced up as well. So well done to Bear One Racing.
Just before you go, what's going to win the Bartley?
Bartley is a very, very competitive event. There were some really good performances the other night. Boring Mana, is it Boring Mana Queen? Have you that in front of you?
Yeah.
Much improved short. I was delighted to see her win because Pat Henry has been a great supporter of Greyhound Racing in Cork, and he's got a good lady on her hands. And as I said, I've been impressed with her improvement over the course of the last couple of weeks. But look, there's plenty in with a chance. And, Miss Minnie Holly was the standout performer going into Saturday night, but unfortunately, she bowed out of the competition. So look, it's very open. 2 fantastic semi-finals there on Saturday night as well, with a great prize of €10,000 to the winner.
No problem, Barry. Listen, off you go. Don't forget to clock in, okay?
All the best, lads.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Tommy, let's get back to those 2 semi-finals. The opening semi-final, Burgess Supreme, Glory Baz, Ballymun Boy, Jack Tavern Bolt, Easy Razzle, Clonarocco. You heard Barry's thoughts. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts, I think it's interesting enough. I think Jack Tavern Bolt is even money with the sponsors for the heat. I think down the card they go 6-1 Burgess Supreme, 6-1 Ballymun Boy. Sorry, 3-1 Glory Baz, 6-1 Ballymun Boy, even money Jack Tavern Bolt, 6 is Easy Razzle, 10's Clonarocco. Now that's a bit of a concern for connections of Carrick Aldo and with the seeding wise that they're kind of 2 outsiders. I still think that Easy Razzle would probably qualify because something's got to give up along the inside. Something has to give between Glory Baz, Burgess Supreme, Ballymun Boy, and even potentially Jack Tavern Bolt if he doesn't fly from traps. I think it's actually a race that if Jack Tavern Bolt leads, in, right, there's a good chance the 5 and 6 will both qualify.
I'll put it out there. I'm going for 4, 5, 6. That's the way I'm going. I think the top three, if there's any bother for any of them, they're vulnerable. And I think Jack Tavern Bolt will lead into the opening corner. And Easy Raz and Clona Rocco should be prominent enough. Certainly Clona Rocco will be prominent on the outside, avoiding traffic. And yeah, I do believe that 1, 2, 3 are vulnerable if they don't get to the front early. And if they're taking bumps into the corner, I could see a situation where it's a sort of Jack Tavern Bolt leading up from Clona Rocco and potentially Easy Razzle turning third or fourth, and then staying on well, maybe grabbing second off Clona Rocco. But yeah, I'm with the outside three. So that's the way I see it. Just because I do believe Burgess Supreme will move off slightly. He will go fast. He never seems to miss it. Glory Baz is the meat in the sandwich, and Ballymun Boy cutting straight for the fence. Unless he takes an absolute flyer, I just can't see how he clears the inside two. So yeah, I'm with the outside three.
Yeah, I'm not averse to that, because I think Burgess Supreme now did show good attitude to qualify the other night. So he can potentially maybe get a little bit of bumping and use his experience and his line to qualify. He can do that. Glory Baz is inexperienced, and I just have a feeling the other night the kind of race didn't pan out to be the race that we thought it was on paper in terms of the early pace and the potential battles early. Now that's down to the fact that he was very good and he was very sharp and he was able to lead and all that. So maybe he can do that again. I just doubt it. Well, I know, don't doubt it. It definitely won't be as easy this week when you've got Ballymun Boy and Jack Tavern both in there. But Ballymun Boy is a dog I wouldn't like to underestimate. He has fabulous early pace as well. So I mean, and he's going to be more inclined towards the inside. So like I think Jack Tavern Bowles, his class will come out. I do worry, obviously, that he's had so many runs. They're not going to back him in even money. I don't see how he can be much more than even money. Anyway, I think the price is fine in some senses. But I don't know that I want to back him, because will it all catch up and will it not? I don't know. Maybe he's just a fabulous greyhound on the way to being something special next season as well as this season. Like I think he's the most likely winner, but there is potential. There's actually potential for the likes of Easy Rattle to cause an upset here.
Yeah, there is. There's no question about it. This is evidence of what can happen in greyhound racing. Like if you reverse Ballymun Boy, put him in 1 and put Burgess Supreme in trap 3, you have the potential for the cleanest race of all time. They're in their lane, but the fact that 1 and 3 aren't in their lane is why you're sort of looking to the outside 3.
Like I would think Ballymun Boy would be an absolute certainty to qualify for the final from trap 1.
Yeah, I agree with you, because he'd either be in front or second into the back straight. Simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like he folds. He certainly doesn't. He certainly doesn't fold. He's not as strong as some of the rest of them over 525, but he's still a fair dog. I just think there's a look at Jack Tavern Bolton would probably have to be my selection for next week, but I could just see it'll probably be Easy Razzle second. I don't know what will be third. Will it be Burgess Supreme or Ballymun Boy? I don't know which of Glory Baz maybe I'm underestimating a bit. I just think he's a terrible draw. And Clona Rocco, like as I said to you, I think there's potential for a 4, 5, 6. But my selections will be 4, 5 something anyway. I think Easy Razzle. I had this feeling from the draw and the whole lot that Johnny Linehan will be able to get her out of traps well enough that she can position herself to use her stamina to have some sort of a say.
He'd take your hand off. He'd take your hand off for that 325 again, wouldn't he?
Oh, and if she does a 325, she's a danger to Jack Tavern Bowles, let alone to just qualifying. So I like 4, 5, and I think maybe Burgess Supreme from trap 1 might, just ahead of Clona Rocco. I think 4, 5, 1 is what I'd probably be going on that.
That's fair enough. On to the second semi-final. Rathdown Molly is her draw once again in 1, Glengar Martha 2. High Trend, Carrick Aldo's in 4, Role Model 5, and Rural Taylor is in trap 6. Just pointed out there. Yeah, there's 4 bitches left in the competition. It's a fair return. Yeah. It's been the growing trend. Rathdown Molly is obviously the bitch with the strongest chance in the market sense in the second heat. But as you said about Glengar Martha, she's not one you can dismiss too lightly. A role model and need to take a flyer. But I think we're both in agreement. Much depends on what Carrick Aldo does at traps.
Yeah, the way they bet, the sponsors bet it: 2-1 the top, Rathdown Molly, 3-1 Glengar Martha, 4-1 High Trend, 2-1 joint favourite Carrick Aldo, and 12-1 each to the 5 and 6 Role Model and Rural Taylor. I look at you have to back Carrick-Aldo, in my opinion. You have to take a chance at Carrick-Aldo, right? You're getting 2-1, right? That to me is fine, right? And the reason I say that is if you believe what I believe, and I think you're in the same kind of boat, if you believe that this dog is capable of something special when he does things right over 5-2-5, I'm absolutely certain of it. I'm certain he's capable of smashing 28.
The evidence is there. Like we saw him do a 2080 in Dundalk, making an absolutely lightning fast start. It wasn't his only fast start in Dundalk. He's been in 6 every night in Curraheen. And while he hasn't walked out, he hasn't certainly taken a flyer of any sort. Now, he's had 3 or 4 looks at those boxes. All of a sudden, now he's in trap 4, which is perceived more of a trapping box than trap 6 around Curraheen Park. If he does hit the lids, like High Trend is only going one direction, and it ain't right. Do you know what I mean? Role Model, she went up fast the last night, but she's not always guaranteed the Rural Taylor thing wide. I just think if he traps on terms, even traps on terms, never mind takes a flyer, I just think he'll blow holes in them. Like this is the Irish Sprint Cup winner. You know what I mean? Like this is serious two bend pace.
Yeah, and look, there's potential. There's potential. There's somebody along the way during the week. Some of the firms might join in and price up, and you might get even 9-4. I think you have even at 2-1. I think you have to take a chance, and the reason I say it is because we think this dog is special over 5-5, potentially special, and we now think. I think we're in the same boat. We now think he has his draw. He's had enough looks around the track. He's done exceptionally well from draws that didn't suit him, and he now all of a sudden we're fairly convinced. Now look, if you've got High Trend on your left, right, and there's a dog I'm not underestimating, right. I think 4-1 is probably more than fair. I think because I do think that he's such a natural trapper. I wonder where Ratdown Molly's going to get her run. I wonder Glengarry Marta, where's she going to get a run? So I'm kind of thinking that Ratdown Molly might be slightly short at 2-1. High Trend too big, Carrick-Aldo too big. You've got Role Model who did a 320, but then she did a 329, a 339 the previous week. I just don't know what I'm going to get from Role Model in terms of breaking. So I'm gonna take a chance by factoring Role Model out and say she's not going to do enough to get in the way of Carrick-Aldo. Like he's doing 327s off moderate breaks from the toughest trap in Ireland, one of the toughest traps in Ireland, trap 6 in Curraheen Park. I mean, like in 95% of the races, 99% of the races running in Curraheen Park any year over 5-2-5, you'd be happy if you thought your dog would do 327. You'd think you'd be on a winner most nights. He's doing that without doing things right. I just think that if he can break it all, and I don't mind if only one other seed qualifies as long as it's a wide seed, so that he can be guaranteed at least 5. I think he's the most likely winner of the Laurels, and I think he's the most likely winner of this heat. And I think at 2-1, you just have to take a chance.
I think he's the one dog in the competition still capable of doing a 317, 316.
Yeah.
I think the evidence is there. And, obviously, if you're a connection, you'd prefer to do it in the final. But it's going to happen sooner rather than later, and I think Trap 4 will certainly give him that chance to do it, and for that reason, he would be my choice. Like in Dundalk, it's not on the card there. He did a 696 in the final in Dundalk. Like you're breaking, like 7 seconds is sensational. Like 696 is just breathtaking, and I think we're both waiting for that that crash start from Carrick-Aldo, and then let's see what he achieves. But yeah, it's an intriguing semi-final. So, what's your way of thinking? Are you Carrick-Aldo, Ratdown Molly? Are you going for something a bit? Are you going for High Trend for a second?
High Trend. This is a funny one. I'm going for High Trend to be second because I think High Trend can be first. If you know what I mean. That sounds contradictory, but you do know what I mean there. Like I think
it'd be much more. It would be interesting though if High Trend is led into the opening corner. How sustained his run is.
Yeah, but I don't have a massive concern in that sense. I do think he's shown all the right attributes. I think he's a seriously fast dog.
If you go back to June 17th around Curraheen Park, he led into the opening corner, was led by Droopys Flytline, came back and won by a length. So he's clearly not a dog that downs tools. That's
yeah, and that's what I've been encouraged by. Okay, that was Novice Company, but whatever. But like he's a proper prospecting. I'm like, if I'm back in Carrick-Aldo, I'm talking about, I'm thinking about something, Carrick-Aldo, something special. But High Trend is a serious dog going the right direction, and he has more natural early pace than Glengarry Martin and Ratdown Molly, or trapping ability. I think he's a more natural trapper in the competition. what I was going to say though, one point I'd make, and much underestimated, if you're a punter of greyhounds, is something you should always look out for, especially if you're backing in competitions. If a dog can produce, like you said, the 696 in the final of the Bar One sprint, they respond to good work, and it's also a good sign of their trainer. They're like obviously, you're putting everything in. You're trying to, obviously, you can't have dogs below, very far below their best if you want to be qualified in classics. But if you can get them to the final and get them to produce their very best in the final, it's a great sign of both the dog and the trainer. And
Yeah.
that is important. A much underestimated quality that a dog, because obviously you'll try, tweak a little bit with something, or you'll just try getting going hard. You have the dog absolutely firing for the last day. And oftentimes what will happen is the dog will be overcooked, or the dog will just do something wrong because it's too keen or whatever. But like when a dog and a trainer can produce in a final like that, it's a great sign. So I'm quite confident that Carrigallo will be ready to produce his best in semi-final and final of the Laurels. So I look, that's why I think the 2-1 is a bit of value.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I was surprised the other night that Rathdrum Molly was actually a shorter price than Carrigaldo. Now, as it was, it worked out that Rathdrum Molly was in front, and those that took the price about her were well rewarded. But I think Carrigaldo will be favoured on Saturday night, no question from the draw.
Yeah, I think so too. But also the most important point to my mind, the most important thing about that heat of the night was neither of them led.
Yeah,
And that is extremely important to note, because we think, you know, Rata Mali improved from a 334 to a 328. So she's gone 345, 334, 328. She's definitely gone the right direction, but she's probably not going to do a 320. Carrigallo, we think, might.
yeah, yeah. No, tremendous Laurels. Look forward to two great semi-finals. Tommy, you're like me. I think we're both in agreement. The most likely winner is Carrigaldo.
Yeah, because like, look, he can win out of trap six. I definitely prefer he wasn't in trap six in the final. Should he get that far, obviously. There's a tricky 28 seconds to negotiate before that. But I think a seed, another seed at least will qualify, and I think that'll be enough for him. Once he can, if he could get in five even, I'd be quite happy.
Yeah. Let's move on to Shelbourne Park, because we had a classic final at the weekend. The time Greyhound Nutrition Juvenile Derby came to a thrilling conclusion at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. And Tommy, this was one of those races where we all predicted what would happen. And, it's rare that we're always right, but we were right. Short Grip popped out, moved to the middle of the track, held up the likes of Balnakill Alf and a couple of others, and Droopys Flytline, while he didn't take a flyer, he did show great speed to turn a close second, runs a remarkable second bend to go around, almost accelerate around Short Grip and then down the back straight. It was a joy to behold. I think this is a very, very special Greyhound Droopys Flytline. You saw him, firsthand in Curryheen in the Dennis Lynn and Solicitors Open and Race. We've spoken at length about that over the last few weeks, and it looks like Droopys Flytline is going to keep that flag flying for a while, because I'm not sure. I don't know where he could end up. I hope he's given the chance to end up where he needs to end up, because I think he's potentially very, very special.
What do you mean by that? Given a chance to end up where you were?
I heard rumors before the race, and I'm not one generally to listen to rumors, that this could have been potentially his last race. He's a son of Law Hill Blake, who's now finished. He's exceptionally talented, and I know he has 3 litters on the ground. He had litters on the ground before he ran, or he'd mated 3 bitches before he ran his first race. He's obviously owned by Michael Dunphy, of Droopy Stud fame. So I think they're very much thinking about a future stud career for him already. I spoke to Robert Gleeson after I heard him interviewed, and he says, "Oh, Winter Racing Festival, and then we'd look at maybe the Gold Cup and the Easter Cup." And yeah, he's saying all the right things. I spoke to him after racing. I had a drink with him downstairs at Shelbourne, and he said, "Yeah." I said, "Is he going to go to stud?" He says, "Well, it's been mentioned." So I was sort of trying to convince him, listen, just take as many straws as you can in the next month, and let him then have a crop when he finishes racing after next year, because you don't know how things are going to pan out. Do you know what I mean? Like we saw, go back to the George Washingtons of this world in the horse racing game, mightn't produce anything. Do you know what I mean? But like, all I know is that he's a special greyhound, and if down the line he turns into be a good stud dog without being a sensational stud dog, they'll regret not having a full campaign with him in 2024, because I could see this fellow winning a derby every day of the week. Could see him winning a derby. I think he's sensational.
He's brilliant. If you look at his record, right, he's 8 wins and 9 starts. And the night he got beaten, he did 28.02. He did, and he was beaten 3.5 lengths as well, which makes it quite bizarre.
Yeah. Speaking of rumours,
yeah.
he's staying where he is as well as the laddie da.
Is he?
Oh, there was all sorts of talk. There was all sorts of talk. He's been sold for the last 6 weeks, according to certain people. But no, I after about the third or fourth time it had sort of resurfaced. I text Shane and said to him, "Well, have you sold the dog?" "No, I don't even think we've had an inquiry. He's staying where he is. Good luck."
Right. Well, that's good. That's good. Good news. And look, Droopys Flytline he's actually getting better. Obviously, he's getting better because his clocks are telling you he's after breaking 28 seconds in the last 2 runs. The beauty is he's doing what his dam was capable of doing. He's also been led early in his last 2 runs and still broken 28 seconds. We talked about it in the semi-final, saying that what would you do? What would he have done had he got a clear run? He had to. He had one brave rival in short grip. I mean, there is a bit of considerable ability. He had one brave rival again the other night, and he showed that he could take over, go down the second bend, showed phenomenal pace down to third bend. She stayed on again, but he wasn't he's not strong over 5-5 at the moment. He's not strong, but he's developing at such a rate that he could be a Derby dog. It's probably maybe I would suggest that if they're going to go to stud, they must think that maybe he won't develop into a 550 dog. That 550 might even stretch his stamina too much if they're going to go that line. But we have seen that you don't need an extensive career on the track to be a top stud dog.
Yeah.
If Sydney isn't the great isn't one of the greatest examples of that, I don't know what is. So Droopys Flytline is vastly experienced relatively with 9 races under his belt. But he's done, I don't know where he goes, and I don't know what's Robert Gleeson, as you said all the right things the other night. I didn't feel he was worried about a campaign for next year, all right, when I heard him talking, because it was kind of, we'll come back for the Gold Cup, right? Or when we come back for the Gold Cup, maybe it kind of felt like, maybe we'll do the Winter Racing Festival, and then after that we'd have to sit down and have a chat. It was very much Aidan O'Brien. Yes, we'll talk to the lads.
Well, obviously it's half owned by his mother, Alice. She was forced to buy a share into the dog before he ran his first race. Robert said the trials he was doing, it just took his breath away. And he got in touch with Michael and said, "Is there any chance we could buy a half share in this dog?" And the fact that they do have a say in matters. I did get into his ear the other night and said, "Just take a few straws, take the straws, but bring him back and race him." There's no better thing for a greyhound than racing. And I really want to see him fulfill what is just at this moment in time unlimited potential. I said to him also, he reminds me very much of his sire Loyal Blake, but also Nguyen Taylor, who obviously was a Derby champion in the recent past. I think he's staying better at this stage in his career than Nguyen Taylor was, and we saw what Nguyen Taylor did over 550 yards. So I wouldn't say it's an issue to 550 yards at all for Droopys Flytline. He's also meeting a rival tonight in short grip who is improving week on week. I think she's a very special lady. There was strong money for her. She was 6-1 during the week. She's returned 7-2, Tommy. A lot of Shrudies knew exactly what she was capable of. She took a flyer from trap 1 straight to trap 3. She gave Balnakill no chance whatsoever. She just couldn't match Droopys Flytline around the second bend and down the back straight. And that's fine. I'd say there's very few that could. But she really got down to it again from the third bend. She's only beaten a length. She does 28 seconds in defeat. It's just a remarkable performance by her as well.
Yeah, I think she's fairly special, all right. Obviously, that 2-3 was where the damage was done, where Droopys Flytline stole a march. She's actually, when she goes out of trap, she's straight for about 10 yards, and then she kind of starts to move off. To my mind, even though not exactly what you want, it's a sign that she's coursing it hard, she's chasing hard and giving it everything. I think she was beaten by Balnakill earlier in the competition. She was beaten by Groucho's Duke. She's beaten by Droopys Flytline twice. I mean, she hasn't won since the 1st of September, which is a little bit unlucky considering all she's achieved in the meantime.
I think it's safe to say it's a touch unlucky. Like against Groucho's Duke, she was robbed on the corner. She's in a lovely position. She's forced to check wide. She loses 3 or 4 lengths. She's beaten a half length. Against Ballinakillalf, she would have been beaten, but she's been beaten a neck. Like, she's beaten 2 because they cross sides on the run in, and she's clipped, and she loses more momentum than the leader. Like, she'd have been within a neck of that night, so like the signs are there. Like, she could be anything. Now, they've said that she's not for sale, and I take them at their word, because she's worth so much to them as a breeding prospect, never mind as a racer going forward. But certainly I'll be watching her progress very keenly.
Nah, she only won 3 races, and she's no good. 3 3 out of 11. Yeah, she's just going the right direction. I'd be interested to see her now after 3 runs in Trap 1, just see her go back into maybe 3 and just see what she might do.
Yeah, it is worth
Just
pointing out that she is a tight railer on the corners. Like, so everyone would say, "Oh, the seating."
Yeah.
I wouldn't be changing her seating. It's just unfortunate she's got Trap 1 every night. But if you stick her in 2 or 3, it's not going to be notable at all, and she'll be on the fence at the opening corner where she wants to be. Of the others, Droopy Zelda was 3rd. She again caught the eye down the back straight, Tommy. She's very fast into the 3rd bend. She really arrives at a rattle at that point. At the moment, she's not finding an awful lot from there. She keeps going, but I think she's a project. She's one that could turn into an Oaks contender, no question.
I've no doubt about it either. She has fabulous ability. She shows tremendous pace down the back. There's loads left in her. Like, you're talking about, with the exception of the Derby or the Laurels, you can't really be in much deeper competition than she's been in, and that Juvenile Derby has been exceptional. Look at the runs that were done. How many sub 28 seconds run were done in this running alone? She tracked exceptionally well around the 2nd bend as well. I thought, to move in 3rd place, she showed lovely pace down the back again. She actually probably wasn't far off matching Droopys Flytline from 2 to 3, maybe in terms of clock. And she's comfortably clear of the rest. Unmatched is making nice progress, laid on length and a half behind her. But I actually think she's a real prospect. And as we said about Johnny Linehan last week, he will go where he needs to go to maximise her chances of picking up what she can. There's obviously good prize in her ability wise, but the problem with the likes of her is that you've almost got to be up against the best all the time because you're at that level.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, a return to bitch company will certainly aid her at this stage in her career, and I'm sure they will try and time their run. And Johnny Linehan has been a bit of a professional at it. They will time her run at the Oaks, to arrive at her very best in midsummer. The same with Unmatched, that has to be said, who's done little wrong through the competition. She just doesn't seem to have the same scope for improvement as Droopy Zelda does, but she's a very talented lady all the same. Highview Splash was out of luck. He was actually in a decent enough position into the corner, just couldn't get around Unmatched. They bumped at that point, and that ended his life. And then, of course, Ballinakillalf finished at the tail of the field. And while that's no surprise, just given the draw, I think we both agree that there's so much more to come from him. He was just a victim of the draw, as it was. He didn't take a flyer. He needed to take a flyer and clear the bitch, and he didn't. But he has such stunning early speed that you could see him being a star over 2 bends or 4 bends in the future. And he's certainly a dog to keep in mind for Classic Glory in 2024.
Yeah, I did point out that I felt he probably shouldn't have been beaten 7.5 lengths in the semi-finals. That was a bit harsh, but like, it's just you're looking to nitpick a little bit when you're at this level. I actually think that this could turn out to be one of the greatest Juvenile Derby finals for a very long time, because I tell you what, if Highview Splash had been drawn in 1 or 2 the other night, that could have been a hell of a race, because I tell you, he was going across the bend and almost set to turn in 2nd place, kind of, or close to 2nd place. Had he been in 1 and going up straight, or 2 like he had broken out of, I think, the previous week, I think it was, like, he mightn't have that explosive early pace. He certainly doesn't have the explosive early pace of Highview Splash or short Grip, who actually has, but he has a trapping ability. He's actually brilliant out of traps. And that's going to cause trouble for a lot of his rivals in the future, actually, because he's so quick out of the boxes that even if he can't match them to the bend, he's going to be able to take a little bit of the ground early. He's also going to position himself close enough to them to be a real player. He's like he's what we would have called in the olden days a proper dog for a derby, in the sense of he has real stamina. It's just at the moment you don't really need real stamina to win a derby nowadays. That's not what it's about anymore. Hence the reason I was banging the drum about 575, 600. Just me being a little bit me. I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. No.
No, I'm used to it.
If
I'm
you
used
haven't
to it.
anything good to say, don't say anything at all. High View Splash was High View Splash is a dog that could be absolutely ridiculous over what 550, but 575 next year too.
Yeah, I would say they're eyeing up the Easter Cup already. Because as you say, with the trapping ability, and it's not as if he's devoid of early speed.
No.
Yes, he's running against like the razor sharp 5.25 yard dogs at present, like the Droopys Flightlines and the Balnakill Alps in this world. But I think there's every chance that he'd be up there, if not leading a short grip or a Droopy Zelda or a match into the corner over 550 yards. And if he's turning second to a Droopys Flightline, it's not going to be easy to pick up a Droopys Flightline who's capable of a 27.90 in his card. But like High View Splash is a 27.97 and will certainly stay to 550 yards. I could see him being certainly potentially Easter Cup champion, and then whatever the rest of the year brings, he could certainly be in the latter stages of the Derby. It's just wonderful to see the Merrymans with a really top class greyhound. That's
exactly. You know, from our youth, Ian, from as long as we're going greyhound racing, God Almighty, it's getting close, getting frighteningly close to 50 years. But but
speak for yourself.
Like they've been involved, always been involved. It feels like I'm out of Shelbourne Park and Harold's Cross for donkey's years, but anyway, maybe I probably am. But High View Splash is a proper prospect. I actually genuinely, and I'm not being smart here, I genuinely think he was in trap 1 the other night. Right? The short grip was in 2, right? Just say the short grip ran the same race and Droopy Flightline ran the same race. See, High View Splash wouldn't have been far away. He was positioning himself to be a major player in that final. It's just like there's a case of how good the depth of quality is and how a draw can make such a difference, more so than ever because of the depth of quality. I mean, he was beaten by the draw the other night.
Yeah. No, a very exciting Juvenile Derby, a tremendous winner, tremendous final, and we now look forward to hopefully seeing him plenty of times in the future. Okay, let's move on. The undercard at Shelbourne Park features some quality racing as well. The criminally underused 600-yard trip was used because the Yvonne Barry track bookmaker Open 600 was on show. Well, let's rush through the heats here. Ben Steady blew away the cobwebs. Tommy, I said it in commentary, blew away the cobwebs 1-3, and did a lovely maneuver into the opening corner to allow him turn second into the back straight. Lotto 6-1, who had actually backed at a very big price in the exchange, set a strong gallop. Thought he looked a certain leader on the outside. Ran a big race in defeat. Lotto 6-1. Sean Conway's dogs are running so well at present, but Ben Steady was just simply too close and nudged his way through. Didn't force his way through, just nudged his way through around the last 2 bends and eased down to win 32-44. I can see him going 5 lengths faster next week.
Yeah, whether he wins this competition or not is a nothing really to me, because I think he's obviously going to go back to the ledger. Spike rang me last week to say that the dog was running this competition, and he was just saying that look, the dog's been basically the way they've talked about it in Buckley's. The dog's been in such good form. He's nearly annoying and wanting to get out racing again. He's just absolutely bouncing, and he's so fresh that you'd be afraid to leave him any fresher. You know what I mean? You just leave too much that he get overexcited about things. So he's just said, let's get him out racing a bit. It's competition he can win. I'm like you, I think he's going to improve a ton for it. And I did love his maneuvers. He's learning obviously a little bit as he goes along, still, despite the fact that he's experienced. But there's a few things about him. He thrives on racing, clearly. I mean, he's big competition, the long competitions are what he wants.
He is such an engine, Tommy. You can imagine that most of these runs don't take much out of him. Now, the 600 yards could be different, but certainly at 550 yards, I'd say he runs 3 today if you let him.
Yeah, look, there's a tiny bit of risk when you're going 600 yards because it's the 3 longest straights, right? But it's a great, as you say, criminally underused, and someday it'll be the Derby. It'll be 575 for a while before we get to 600. But he's a dog that you know, with the ledger, when the ledger is a real test because you got to run right around to the escape, right, which is a long run. The dog doesn't know the race is over when it hits the finishing line, so it's still running hard. He's a type of dog that will actually, it won't bother. He's just that type of dog. I think more so than this competition, and of course it'd be great to pick up this competition along the way. More so than this competition, this is about getting him cherry ripe, because I think he's a slow burner in the sense that he builds up towards his very best sort of form, and we saw that in the Derby. He builds up towards his best form. So I even though it's 600 and it's a tiny bit of a risk at the trip, I think this is really to set him up for his tilt at the ledger, a proper tilt at the ledger.
No, that's fair enough. It wouldn't be too bad to land a €5,000 prize along
Yeah,
the way.
exactly.
Onto the second heat, Jetstream Breeze. Des and Mary are doing well down at Curryhead Park, but they're also doing well in Dublin because they've got a nice type here. Jetstream Breeze, bred to certainly want that bit further. I Am's a Breeze is a top class stayer in the UK, and she seems to be breeding well. 32.27 off a good start. It was a good display. I thought he's clearly a dog going places. Des and Mary have had plenty of good dogs over this trip in the past. You're going back a few years now. They tend to have more early speed in recent years, but they've had some really good 575, 600 yard dogs in the past. And well, they can certainly campaign them over this sort of distance now for the next while. And you'd imagine they'll be eyeing up a winter racing festival slot for this fellow.
Yeah, find the right race from. I think actually ran a cracking race. Of course, helped a little bit by Lucky kind of moving off and giving him the whole inside half of the track. Now it makes no difference if Lucky moved off into Rings End if you don't have the pace to actually exploit the gap that's left there. So I think it's a fabulous effort. 15-8 favorite too.
Yeah, no, he was well drawn and made the most of it. There was only his sixth career start. He's obviously very progressive. He's a September 21, so he has a bit of age on his side, but there's no question there's an engine there. He's got a real yeah. He's really talented. I'm looking forward to see where he ends up. On to the third heat, Glengar Elvis. This was that perfect example, Tommy. We were talking about the Highview Splash Dog there, where Glengar Elvis was popping out of traps over the 525 yards in razor hot company in the Juvenile Derby and was getting completely blown away by the real early speedsters into the opening bend. Here he is stepping up to 600 yards, gets a different type of greyhound, pops out, comfortably holds his position to the corner against Optic Chico and Music Glide Away. A Derby finalist and a hugely fast dog in Optic Chico. And once getting to the corner, well, he's a son of Brett Lee, Droopy Smasher. Like Droopy Smasher stayed 1,000 yards. He wasn't going to be stopping, and he posts 32.22, fastest run of the round. Very impressive. I think this is going to be his distance going forward, even more so than 550 yards. I think this fellow probably wants 575, 600.
Probably wants it already. But no, that's not to say that he's not just improving. He's had a very little running in his trial the previous week with 28.11. I know we have a lot of them that do that kind of that sort of time in a trial or whatever else. But like maybe he's just a dog that's like what impresses me most is I think you need experience to win 600 yard races. I think
Yeah.
you need to build up. You need to strengthen up to kind of compete at the very top level over this trip. And he's not experienced.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge performance.
Massive
Huge.
display. Pat has been very keen on this litter from a long way out. I remember him being down there before the Ledger last year, so they would have like, yeah, they weren't even they weren't. Well, don't forget about the mats. They weren't even on the track yet. And he just said to me, he said,
Jesus, that's
"Keep an
good.
eye out for them. Keep an eye out for them." And Elvis obviously was the fastest of them, I believe. As you said, the 28.11 trial is not a surprise, just given what he was doing over the 525 yards prior to that. We're not quite getting to the corner, but the other night got on the bunny and ran right to the line. And as I said, 32.22, a hell of a run bomb by a dog so young. Optic Chico. I'm still not sure what his best trip is, Tommy. I don't know what to make of him.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like he's capable of a 30.93 the previous night in defeat. He's got 29.42 in his card for 550 yards. He's got 28.28 for 525 yards. He's doing 32.46 the other night. I think he can go faster, but I just still don't know what his trip is.
Yeah, I think with a dog like that, it's normally makeup of the race that'll define it. I think he's the type of one that if you look closely enough if you watch him closely enough in races, if you're a punter, I'm talking about now, if you're watching closely enough in races, you'll find the perfect race for him and back him at a big price. That type of dog because the ability is always there no matter what the trip is. You'll find, but it's just a matter of actual individual races. That's the way I tackle a dog like him because I
Yeah.
don't think look he doesn't win a huge number of races relative to his ability, and that's obviously down to the fact that he's forced with his ability to be racing at the top level, and just he lacks a little bit here and there in terms of overall pace. Often not being able to position himself where he wants to be. He was positioned well the other night, actually. It's not a bad run. There's just potential. There's just potential in the winner's a bit special.
Yeah, I look. So often I say the opposite, but I think this is a dog that could benefit for a trip to a ledger or a different track, just different surroundings for a while, and he just seems to be just running into one most nights at Shelbourne. And yeah, I think he's capable of as fast a run as most of the dogs in the country. And I still think there's better to come from him. I think there's more there. Just maybe a journey to Limerick for the ledger could be in the offing. I thought Barefoot Supremo ran a big race in third. Music Light Away didn't happen for me. Didn't get to the front early. It is worth pointing out in this race there was a delay. They were in traps. The hare didn't start. They take them out of traps, bring them back to traps. The dogs, especially like Music Light Away, where he's dependent on getting a decent start and getting to the front early. He took a bump on the opening corner, but it is worth keeping in mind that they use up plenty of nervous energy anytime they go to traps, and to be taken out of traps and then be brought back, it wouldn't have helped. Moving on to the last of the 4 heats, and this was won by the wonderful Droopys Nice One, Tommy. God, what a star she would be to own.
Yeah. I mean, even, and the beauty of it again was that she had to show her class because she was led early, obviously. Tracked very nicely, went clear, was bit wide as customary at the last bend, but there's just so much quality about her. She's just class. And in fairness, like she's held her form really well, or she's able to come back to form or to a very top and produce it on a regular basis. I think
it seems like she's on the go since making her debut on January 7th, 2022. Like I don't remember with big long breaks, but she must have, like she's had 45 or 46 starts. So, she hasn't been racing once a week or anything like it, but she hasn't had too many breaks.
No, she was often from the end of last year till April, right? But it's not. It's a kind of a one break in her career. She's a fabulous bitch. I mean, you'd love to. I mean, sporting would have been too not to have bred her by now as well, because she's just. I mean, you'd love to see what type of pup she might produce. She's quality. You have to love the attitude too. Like she just, it doesn't matter, like trip or whatever. Like something that we talk about, this is too sharp and that's too sharp, and obviously 600 yards isn't too sharp for her. Like she was power packed to the line, even though she led out of second bend. Was it around the first 2 bends maybe?
Oh no, she only took it up into third bend, didn't she?
Was it?
Am I wrong? Stripe Sparky really set a strong gallop now. He was a big price, and he sort of caught us a bit unawares.
Oh no, she took it. You're right. She took it
about halfway, just about halfway.
Just beyond halfway. Just put her nose in front of the halfway. Yeah.
Yeah, Gaytime Hugo was arriving at a rush at that point. He was forced to check his stride as Stripe Sparky came across him. Himself and Balnabola Una took a bump off the last bend. And I thought one ran very well. Born a Flame, big price. Absolutely rattled home. Like Gaytime Hugo and Balnabola Una is picking up to qualify in third spot. Second, Stripe Sparky ran very well. He had obviously he had a 31-38 in his card around Enniscorthy. Like that's not easily done, it has to be said. But dogs like this, like even though he was only beaten 3 lengths by Droopy's Nice One on August 26th, they're often overlooked because they have provincial form. Like he runs a blinder in second. He's only beaten 2.5 lengths at 11-1. And 11-1 is obviously the return, given the fact that it was on the exchanges the other night. It's an industry SP. Some of the prices 11-1. Like, have you ever seen 11-1 on the board, Tommy?
No. 11-10.
22-1. You don't see 22 too often either. Born a Flame back in third spot, but Droopy's Nice One is the one to take out of that contest. I just want to mention the finale. Well Met returned, Tommy, after his layoff, after his Irish Derby final appearance, finished 5th on that occasion. Razor sharp again the other night, took a flyer. Clonbrine Treaty did what Clonbrine Treaty does, missed the kick, flew up, challenged the third bend, doesn't find an awful lot home. He's a bit disappointing. It's all about the start with him, I'm afraid. His starting just has never improved, and Clonbrine Treaty continues to get beaten races where he probably shouldn't get beaten, but Well Met, the opposite of that. He wins races where sometimes you don't think he should win. He is a great starter. And when they come to him, he kicks again. We've often said it. He's a very, very hard dog to get around.
Yeah, look, it was a cracking run. I'm not giving up on Clonbrine Treaty yet. That Graham Holland won't be able to straighten him out a bit. He's far too good. He's the type of dog you've got to give a lot of time to try and get the best out of him, because his pace is incredible, absolutely.
And it is worth pointing out his best form was in Limerick. There seems to be something coming up at Limerick very shortly. Could we see the best of him down there?
Interesting. I just look at. I think looking at that run again the other night. I mean, he just so slow all the traps. Look at that run the other night. it's to me, it mightn't necessarily be the switch to Limerick. It might just need time when he gets his kind of winter break and maybe comes back. Maybe Graham will be able to have had a bit of time to work with him and see if he can get something, do something to kind of get him breaking consistently again, because he's incredible ability.
Yeah, there's no question. The pace he showed in the feet the other night was something special.
Yeah.
Anything else to touch upon, Tommy?
No, we're kept busy everywhere, Ian, at the moment.
Yeah, plenty happening. Of course, the Laurels will conclude at Curryheen Park on the 14th of October. That is less than 2 weeks from now, Tommy. It all builds up. It's obviously a very exciting time at Cork. It is the main time at Cork. No different to the Derby in Shelbourne Park. It's the time of the year you look forward to.
Yeah, it is, and I honestly was when I saw the original entry, I was going, yeah, there's a few good dogs in there, but like, this is just disappointing. Like, could have named probably at the time, and I have a head like a sieve, so I wouldn't name them this minute, but I could probably name 10 or 12 dogs. I thought, gee, they'd be a great addition to the Laurels, and why aren't they coming down? Like, you're putting on a good stake, good track, plenty of money, involved, and it
Five,
kind of like,
five,
why aren't
five,
they
or
coming?
5 or 6 of them were involved in the Juvenile Derby, of course, like the Balnakill Alf would have been,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
Droopys
yeah,
Flytline, and
yeah.
Jatara, dogs like
No,
that.
yeah, yeah, but there are that, and there are dogs that were in the Derby. You say, why didn't they come down? And maybe they've had a hard campaign and they wanted to break and whatever else. But actually, it has developed into a really, really good Laurels. And obviously, like Jack Chapman Bold isn't the dog you could have talked too much about prior to the Laurels, because he was in an A1 stake, the Casco Derby in Curry Park. So he's coming out of that. Could be Glory Baz is very inexperienced. Carrick Alda was a dog who was sprinting. High trained as a youngster, come making, advancing. Um, a lot of them you mightn't have known a lot about, but I think the type of dogs that we'll probably be talking a lot about. Then you've added in the experience of Glengar, Marta, Ratdown, Molly, Burgess, Supreme. Um, it's actually turned out to be really, really good Laurels, and it has surprised me a bit, pleasantly surprised me.
Yeah.
And I love to be able to say that, because I did worry about it when I saw the initial entry. I went, oh, where are they all? I could, there was some kennels you were kind of looking and going, geez, they've got a lot of good dogs, and they just have very little in the competition. And I was kind of saying,
There
is
can
there
often
something
be there
about
can
it?
often be a happy mix with an entry. Like sometimes you don't want it too stacked, because as a result, some of the very big guns go out because it's so competitive from the early stages, and sometimes where it doesn't look that deep, that all the big guns go through to the latter stages, and you end up with an unbelievable Laurels final. And now, of all the classics over the last 10, 12 years, the Laurels, certainly the last 5 or 6 years, has been the one that's provided the really, really, really sort of in-depth finals. Like there's been some stunning finals in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Certainly since the Friends of Cork Greyhound Racing got involved, they were gifted. Like their first 3 finals were different gravy.
You're 100% right, and but you're looking at sometimes you're looking at them going, God, I really need these to qualify. I really need to qualify, and it worked out. Just they worked out with the finals they got. But this one I have to say has been from start to finish, and that's what I've loved about it. That's what surprised me about it. We've actually had great races, great heats. Not every heat, obviously, but great heats in every round. Do you know what I mean? There have been
Yeah.
really good races, and I'd be the first to say, "Oh, that was rubbish," or "it was very poor quality." And oftentimes I'll throw it in there, and people will pick up a little bit too much of my negativity. But but I think I actually think there have been every single round. There's been something. There's been more than 1 or 2 heats to actually really look forward to. That have been to this stage, and we've got 2 really interesting semi-finals, and I can't see how it'll be a bad final. I think we have the makings of what could be and should be. But now you do depend, when you get an entry the way we did at the start of the Laurels, you do depend on the likes of Jack Tavern Bolt, Glory Baz, a high trend, those dogs coming through, easy razzle, go kicking on and develop. You depend on those to kind of add a little bit of what I didn't know about prior to the Laurels. You know what I mean? A little
Yeah,
bit of,
yeah, yeah.
to
Well,
open up and become.
it'd be a boring sport if nothing was to sort of progress, or everything in the competition can't just come in, produce its identical form, and just go through. Because then the best 6 or 12 dogs would be at this point in the Laurels. The dogs we look out for, like the first thing I look for when I look at an anti-post selection is not, oh, that's the proven performer, that he's the favorite, I'll back him. I look for the one that's potentially going to improve, the one that could
Hence the
come
reason.
forward first.
Hence the reason you and I were on the laddie da for the Derby,
Yeah,
because he,
he's absolutely the type of dog that I will back every year.
Yeah, and like we were hoping that he would develop on from what we thought we had seen before the Derby, and he did, and okay, it didn't work out for us in the sense of he got knocked out in the semi-final, but it was the right type of bet and the right type of dog, and the type of dog you need to kind of make the people talk about competition. So I think it has developed, and I think, and what the beauty of this, Laurels, I think not only has it developed, a lot of young dogs have developed through it and are turning out to be pretty special looking. You've also got the likes of Raptor Carrick Aldo, who I still think is just bubbling under, ready for something special.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Listen, we look forward to it. I'll be down in Curryheen on October 14th. I won't be in Shelbourne on a Saturday night for the next until the 21st of October, believe it or not, because next Saturday night I'll be down at Limerick, Milford. Milford Hospice are having a huge charity night at Limerick on Saturday night. And if you are around the area, I would advise you to make your way there. They should have some wonderful racing, lots to look forward to. And it is for a very worthwhile cause. I believe there's plenty happening for the kids. There'll be one or two big names, sort of. I know they're hoping to bring one or two of the Limerick hurlers. So it should be a great occasion. I'll be there talking some rubbish. And again, it'll be a wonderful night's racing. If you want to go, I would advise that you go to the Limerick Greyhound Stadium website and you'll see the banner at the top there. You can buy your tickets through that. And again, a large percentage of it is going to Milford Hospice. Well worth your while going. And yeah, if you can, please make your way there. Well, that's it from us on this Monday evening. My thanks again to the Exile Dub and to the exiled Corkman. Where's he? Oh, he's gone. That's right. He's doing a hard day's work, he said. Barry Drake again. Thanks for his input. Talking all about the Bar 1 Racing Irish Laurels. It really is turning into a wonderful classic, and we look forward to a thrilling conclusion October 14th. We've also seen a tremendous winner of the time Greyhound Nutrition Juvenile Derby in Droopys Flytline. What the future holds for him, we'll find out. But I can tell you something. If he does hit the track again in the near future, there'll be plenty of people backing him because he is a very special talent. But that's it from us on this Monday evening. We'll see you next time. Good evening, good luck. God bless.